Good morning. We're just having some technical difficulties with our video, so trying to figure that out. So just pray that, God is Lord over technology, so hopefully it'll all work out. So we're so happy to be here and share with you about our trip. I just want to say thank you to the church body, to parents, to anyone who gave their prayers and their support and just in any way helped us along the way. I'm just overwhelmed at God's faithfulness in all of this. From the time that He called us to go in December, it was very clear. He just said, here, this is what I have for you, and invited us to say yes to it. And at that point, we were looking at, okay, we have 5 months to raise about $30,000. That's insane. And but just continuing to say yes and step into it, even though about 3 months before we were going to go, we still needed like $15,000. And God just continued to bring miracle after miracle. And now we're here sitting before you, telling you about this amazing trip that we just got to take. So, I have no doubt in my mind that this is exactly what we're supposed to do, that God was calling us to go, and He chose each one of these kids to go. And He just had such an amazing trip for us, and we're excited to share with you. We were serving at the Esther School, which, if any of you have been here along the way, you've kind of heard a little bit about what we were going to do. We were helping do the first ever adventure camp at the Esther School. So these kids are there all year, and then they don't have really anything in the summer. So it was the dream of one of the teachers that I lived with when I was living there to do kind of a VBS hybrid and have Bible, reading, math, science, all of these things. So have the VBS curriculum along with math, science, reading, that kind of stuff. And so we did that every morning, and each high school student had a whole group of Zambian children that they were in charge of, and that we all got to know each other really well, and we sang together, and we just went through camp every day together and hung out in the village in the afternoons, and it was just a really amazing time. So they'll be telling more in detail, and then I'll hand it over to Rick.
First, I'd like to thank Lindsay in front of the congregation. Truly a blessing from God that we have her in our congregation and that He spoke to her. Secondly, I'd like to thank all the young men and women to my right that are on this stage for not only the godly faith they displayed the last 2 weeks, but for being independent, strong-minded, responsible young adults. As Lindsay said, they were responsible for groups of children to get them to different classes, to take care of them throughout the day. But on top of that, they had to get where they needed to be at certain times because we were busy with a whole host of activities. And each one of them got where they needed to be every day. Didn't complain once about the austere conditions at times that we lived in. I think they got to like dirt quite a bit, so I thank them for what they've done the last 2 weeks as well. The school itself, as Lindsay said, was running a vocational Bible school, vacation Bible school. And year-round, like she said, they teach all the way through 3rd grade. I think the 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade classroom is being built this next year so they can continue to expand. And because of that, I spent most of my time on the vocational side, the construction side during the last 2 weeks. We tiled about 4,500 square feet. We painted 4 or 5 rooms, and then the young men and women up here on the stage with me helped me demo the preschool classroom so they could replace the entire ceiling of the building because the termites had basically eaten through the ceiling. So we, in addition to the time they spent with the youth, we spent a lot of time doing construction at the school. Amazing thing about the school, and the kids are going to talk to you about the students and what they spent time doing, and that's what we've heard about as a congregation in the past, but the vocation that is taught there. So there's a construction crew of Zambia nationals that we work with. Each one of them is learning a trade. They had never tiled before. I'm not sure I was the right person to teach them how to tile, but we learned how to tile. Everything that's been constructed has been done through their efforts there in conjunction with the staff of the school. On top of that, they have a agricultural side to the school where they raise their own chickens, a lot of their own crops. These are not only used to support the school itself and to feed the students during the day, but to help generate revenue for the school. What's amazing is not only the youth that are going to this school are being taught godly lessons, but the adult Zambians working at the school every day are being taught vocational skills. One of the men that heads up their construction team, Alfred, has learned to weld. He is working to basically purchase a used generator, used welding equipment, so he can now use that skill out in the village, as well as leading the construction team there at the school. Isaiah Zulu, the head farmer basically for the school, has taken away lessons, not only that he's taught to many of us on how to farm in Zambia, but how to basically develop his own chicken roost. He's developing honey that he sells in the community. So pretty amazing the lessons that they are learning on top of everything being taught at the school. The women from the village work at the school and are learning to sew. They sew all the uniforms for the school. So again, it's a trade that they can bring out to their community to not only support the community, but to also improve their living conditions, their ability to make a living in their environment. All of this that I talked about that we saw and observed is a little separate than what the kids are going to talk about working with the students. I have been to Africa in the past, and in the past when I've been there, I will tell you that on several of the occasions, it was clear that the folks we met with over there who had lived in some horrific conditions, atrocities being committed, would tell you that God's not in Africa. From the day we set foot in Zambia, I will tell you God was in Africa. God was in Zambia. It was clearly relevant every day. What we took from our time there, I think, is a rejoicing in our soul of how good God truly is. The ability to wake up every day and say, I'm going to place my hands in the Lord's hand and I'm not going to worry. I know He will provide, was demonstrated to us daily by the people we worked with and encountered every day. So I think we all feel rejuvenated, our souls filled with God's grace and glory from this trip.
Amen. Do we have some pictures? Nope. All right, we're going to continue to share then. One other cool thing that I just wanted to share is that in the abundance of God's provision, before we left, we were able to give them, the Esther School, $1,000 of extra funds that we had raised, so that will, bless them a lot. All right, now we're going to hear from some of the kids. They all go to Mattawan High School, so they don't each have to tell you that, but they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves and about their time, what they took from the trip. Start with Jared.
Starting with the guy that didn't prepare. Okay, so my name is Jared Pendowski. I've been on 4 other mission trips, and this is the first time I've ever been out of, this is the first time getting a passport, ever been flying. So it was a really great experience, and once we got to Zambia, like Rick said, you can just tell God is everywhere. Even all the politics, they're looking for new election. They use God. They preach God. It's really amazing. And so when we got to the school, I didn't know really much to expect. Day 1 went by, and then the next day we started the VBS program. I met my kids, and they are just the most happiest, loving kids ever. All they want to do is just hold your hand, hug you, and just talk to you. They like even tried teaching all of us Nanja, which is their language. They tried really hard to teach us. And, but they just have made me change my mind so much on things. Like, they don't have hardly anything. Some of them, like, to play Gaga, they're using a plastic bag full of other plastic bags. Like, and they would just toss it around, and they're just like the happiest kids ever with it. And playing soccer with them, they just loved it. They just always were making me smile, and they called me Miss Jared. They didn't. I don't know why. Because sometimes it would be Mr. Jared, sometimes other times it would be Miss. But just from this experience, I would definitely go back. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ariel Kiefer. This was my first mission trip and my first time to Africa, obviously. And then, I don't know, like everyone said, like when you first step foot in Africa, you can just see that God's present because all the kids will come up to you and they're just always so happy and smiling. And it's funny because like a lot of them, like they knew English a little bit, but not that well, but they would still like come up to you and, hi, how are you? Like, and smile at you. And it was great. But I didn't teach, but like I brought around the preschoolers, and so they were the youngest ones there, and they didn't really speak English. but they would just smile at you, and you would ask them questions, and they had no idea what you were saying, but they just, yeah. And it was great. One of my favorite stories when I was there was like, it was earlier this week, and Ellie and I were at the Gaga pit with a couple of the little girls, and we were playing Gaga with a plastic bag, which I thought was an onion at first, but and they were just like throwing it at each other. And then I got out, and another little girl who was in my preschool class, her name is Mariana, she got out too, and she was just sitting in the dirt, playing with the dirt. So I went and sat by her, and she started like playing with my hair. And she started talking to me, and she kind of just like rambled on a little bit because she didn't know English that well, but she knew like certain words. And then she looked at me and she said, "I'm really proud that God loves me." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Well, God's always with me, and He's always with you." And she's 5, and she was like, "God loves her, and God loves her, and God loves him. God just loves all of us." She was like, "And I'm so proud of it that He loves us." And so honestly, it made me change my faith a little bit because most 5-year-olds had more faith than I did in God. And that really changes your perspective, and it makes you just realize how powerful if God is powerful there, like how powerful God is here. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellie Stuck, and this was also my first mission trip. And so I was scared to begin because going into a different country, you have no idea what you're going to expect, like what the people are going to be like. But the second we stepped into the village, the kids like surrounded us. And they were so excited, and their smiles were so bright, and they even sang Hakuna Matata to us, which was unexpected and hilarious all at the same time. And that also happened. I was in charge of the first graders along with Lauren, and we fell in love with our kids the first day. They were so funny, and their laughter was absolutely contagious. They loved making fun of our accents and tried to teach us their language, which we had a hard time understanding and getting. But just their love and faith for everything and for God is so amazing. I like to compare their unconditional love for us is the closest tangible thing to God's unconditional love, because having all these awkward, loud, white teenagers come into your school and just go up and hug them every day and say how much you love them is just the best feeling ever. And coming back was so weird because in America, you don't just go and smile at strangers or shake everyone's hand when you enter a room. And just God was real and tangible, and it was awesome.
Hi, I'm Peyton. I was in charge of the kindergartners along with Kip over there. And when we landed in Zambia, it was amazing just seeing everyone, how happy they all were. It's just insane because when you go to a school here, you don't see everyone as always all smiles. And no matter what, everything made them happy, like the littlest things like thumb wrestles or high fives. And they just loved it. They loved everything about it. And it was just cool seeing all the kids. They all have different personalities. Like you see in the commercials, you see everyone's all sad. Like it's like advertised that way. They're all just always sad. But they're all like bright and happy, and they all had like different perspectives. And you could see the shy kids, the outgoing ones, the funny ones. It was amazing. And for me, my favorite experience, or just one of my favorite stories, was we were climbing up a water tower. We were about 40 feet up in the air in a water tower on a ladder, and my phone started to slip out of my pocket, and I just watched it. It fell down, and it bounced about 10 feet down the fall. It bounced and hit Emma in the head, and then continued the fall 30 more feet to the ground, and it survived. It's intact still. And that was just it was a good experience.
Okay, my name is Lauren. It was also my first mission trip, and I'm going to start with sharing my favorite memory. So we were out playing basketball with the kids in the evening, and they weren't really playing basketball, but like their own little version of just trying to make it through the hoop. And it was like you started in the center and you got 2 tries to make it in, and if you didn't, you were out. And they gave me like 3 or 4 tries, and I just didn't do it. So then I walked off to the side all sad, and they all came over and gave me high fives. And I just thought of like how different that is than here. You know, little kids are mean here, you know, but like they're just so nice. And I wouldn't say I'm the best with kids, but so I had first grade, and they were just so accepting of like everything we were doing, and like we were trying to speak their language, and they just laughed at us, but it was like kind of like laughing with us, not really at us. And we really struggled with names, like both ways. I couldn't say a lot of their names, and they couldn't say mine. So we just kind of had this like understanding between each other, and it was amazing for me to see that like not to sound really cliche, but smiles are like laughter is universal. So we didn't have to speak the same language at all times and understand each other completely, but as soon as I would smile, they would smile, and we kind of understood each other. I thought that was really cool. Also, you think, like he said, the kids over there are different than the kids here, but they are just average little kids that just want to be held and loved and played with, and I thought it was really cool to see how accepting they were and how different we are. I remember we were dancing one time. We were doing like songs in the morning and singing, and this little girl was making fun of Ellie and I for the way we were dancing. And at the end, I was like, "Hey, I saw you making fun of us," and she just came up and gave me a hug and introduced herself, and she held my hand for like the rest of the day, and she was like not making fun of me necessarily, but laughing with me, and I just thought that was really cool. The kids were just amazing, and I think that was probably my favorite part, is just seeing and being able to form relationships with these kids. So that was it.
Hi, my name is Emma Alsner, and this was my second mission trip. My favorite part about our trip was probably just hearing the kids sing. The kids, they all love to sing. That's a huge part of their culture there. And they have so much faith, and they're so happy all the time, even though they have nothing. And they face challenges that like we don't even have to think of. And I mean, their lives, they just grow up in a different world. And you know, like here, no one, like it's really hard to find people who would say like, oh yeah, like I'm happy like all the time. I'm smiling like everywhere I go. But like there, that's how they're all like. And just when you walk into a room, they all hug you and they run up to you and they just like love you no matter what. Yeah. And when they would sing, they would have like worship every day, the kids would just start like screaming. And here, like when you hear like the kids sing, usually people are quiet because they're embarrassed and they're shy. But no, the kids, they were like Beyoncé's. They loved to sing, and they were really good at it too. So the coolest part was when they sing songs in their own language, and they were just so excited to get to like praise God. And just hearing them sing, everyone would just start crying, and no one really knew why, but like you'd look around in the room, and like you just see all the adults just crying because the kids just were like so touching, just hearing their voices all together, and it was really cool. I was here.
Hi, I'm Kate Nemitz. This is my second mission trip, and I was kind of nervous about it because I'm kind of shy, and I was with the preschoolers with Ariel, so me being shy and them being shy, not knowing English, didn't really mix well. But the first day, we went in and everybody got their name tags, and they were already starting to like hold our hand and hug us. And we didn't even need to like communicate. They just like automatically let us into their lives. And my favorite part was probably at the end of the day when we all would sing. And there was like this prayer song like before we prayed. And it was always like a cultural song, so it was pretty cool. And it was just really cool to see all the kids. They would just jump around and sing with the leader. And it was just really cool. And that was probably the most touching part about this trip. And I don't know, I was kind of like, everybody was like nervous for me because it's Africa and not that many people thought it was a good idea for me to go, but like to be honest, I felt like more safe walking by myself there than I would like around Kalamazoo, you know. And I don't know, it was just amazing because all the kids were just so sweet, and they would always come up to you and give you hugs. I had this one student, Marjorie, and I would just look at her and smile, and she would just like hide because she was so shy, and then she would just come up to me and give me a really big hug. And at the end of the day, there was usually like some kids at the basketball court, and they would like sing and dance, and one of the girls was singing like the song that goes like, "We are tigers." Like instead of saying that, they were saying, "We love Jesus." And I didn't expect that at all because I know the one that says, "Mighty, mighty tigers," you know. So it was just kind of cool that they always had God with them, and they didn't just put on a face at the school. They had it like all day, and it was just what they did. Like even though they hardly had anything, they were so thankful for what they did have. And I think that sometimes we forget to thank God for what we have, because it's definitely a lot more than they have. So.
Nobody said it yet, but I'm sure we can all agree that I'd like to thank Rick for coming with us. We really appreciate it, like in the airport and traveling and stuff. I know it made me and like everyone else feel a lot safer. So, but anyway, I'm Kip, and this is my third mission trip. And like every mission trip, kind of like makes you like rethink your life and like appreciate life in a different sense. But this one like tripled by any other mission trip. It was amazing. But like everyone else was saying, like the smiles on the kids' faces and whatnot was amazing. And like even though you'd be like really tired next day, like trying to go to school, like you'd get there and just like how happy they are and how friendly they are would make everything so much more easier and better. And on the last day, I was going to the market with Lindsay and another girl, Carly, and two of the kids were with us, Paul and Steven. And they were in our class, and they were just telling me that we were just talking and stuff, and I had my Jesus Loves Kalamazoo mission trip shirt from our first mission trip. And they were asking me what Kalamazoo was, and I was like, well, that's where I live, and I'll be going there tomorrow. And they were just like sad, and it made me sad too, and they were like, oh no, don't go, please stay. And they're like begging me to stay, and like, I don't know. And it's like, kind of made me like happy and sad at the same time, but knowing I had to go, kind of like, it'd be really nice to go back next year and see the kids again and like have like the same grade
and just their kindness and happiness for each other. Like, kind of wish it was like this in America. Like, they have such a good sense of community with each other. They're like, they'll think about their neighbor before they think about themselves. Like, oh, my kid needs a shirt. Oh, his shirts are ripped up, or he has no shoes. But my neighbor needs so much food for their kids too. I'm gonna go get food for my neighbor before I get shoes for my kid, like that kind of stuff. So it's just amazing seeing their culture. Yeah.
One other thing we did while we were there is last Sunday we attended church services down in one of the local churches. And the only thing I can help equate the size of the church for you all for is if you go in one of the small classrooms here in the church, that was about the entire size of their church. Our group probably took up at least half the church, and they made sure we had seats in there since we were attending. But the village came to church. The service lasted about 2 hours, and the music was phenomenal. And I'll talk about the music in a second, but when the service ended, when you talk about community like Kip did, everyone proceeded out of the church, and there was almost like a long processional line where every single person who attended church that day shook each other's hands, touched base, talked to each other. It was the strongest sense of community that you could see. The music, so we were about a half mile maybe from the village. Thursdays and Fridays they have choir practice. At the school we could hear choir practice, and there were about 8 people in the choir. There's no electric guitars, there's no speakers. That's how loud the music was. When they sung for joy, they truly sung for joy. And it was evident that that love of God they shared with us, and hopefully we shared that back with them in our time there.
Does anyone have another story they want to share?
Okay, so while I was there, I really like fixing wounds and like healing people. So while I was there, I was basically like the little nurse that all the kids would go to if like they got like a scrape or if they fell down. And like one of the first days I was there, I always carried around like my little fanny pack that had like Band-Aids and like alcohol wipes in it. And Kip brought me this little girl, and she had like a scrape on her knee or something, and she was like looking at me like with these big eyes because I pulled out like an alcohol wipe, and she'd like obviously never seen one of those. And I started like dabbing at her knee, and she was like just like looking at me like so angry, and I like grabbed her hand because I knew it'd probably hurt, and she like squeezed my hand really tight, and I started dabbing it again. She was like, "No, I'm tough. I'm fine. I'm tough." And I was like, "All right, yeah, you are." And so I like put the Band-Aid on, and she got up and she's like, "Told you I was tough." I was like, all right.
So the kids loved recess like more than anything in the world, and their favorite thing was the tire swing. And so this tire swing is like really complex. Like there are 4 of them, and they all spin separately and all spin together. And so being these bigger people to push them, there was always a chorus of them yelling, one more push, please, please, Miss Ellie, Miss Ariel, Miss Lauren, Miss Kip, Miss Peyton, all this stuff. And like, we were always misses. And so like for literally 15 minutes, all we had to do was push this tire swing. And they were so happy, and like, it was so funny. Just one more push, please. That's all I want, one more push. We all said that like when we came home, because every single grade said the same thing. Please spin me, please.
Well, with the whole tire swing, so one day I was pushing a kid, and he ended up actually falling off the tire swing and skid into some rocks. He got right back up and got right back on it. One day I was pushing them again, and I decided a lot of them would like push and then like hang on and like fly around it with them. And so I decided to try it. with a couple of them, and I was pushing. I started like going around. My hand slipped, just slid right through the rocks and all that. And I just laid there for a little bit, and then got up, and all I felt was pain all down my left leg. I ended up actually having like a lot of cuts down my like hip. My shin has a lot of cuts, and felt like I just got like beat up, and everyone was like, "You okay?" I was like, the kids were all looking at me, so I was like, "I'm fine." But inside, I was really in pain. But yeah, it was great.
All right, so I know you've heard enough about the tire swings, but I have one more. This kid, we had first grade, so maybe 6 or 7. He was pushing the tire swing ahead of him and then got hit by the one behind him, and he like slid through the rocks. He just got right back up. I'm big, I'm a man, I'm big, and just like, got up and walked away, like moved on to a different place. And the girl on the tire swing, the one that had hit him, felt so bad for hitting him and causing him pain that she cried. And that was really weird for us because we were like, why are you crying? And she was just like, I feel bad, I hurt him. And that's amazing because, kids on playgrounds are pretty ruthless. And she just felt so bad, she cried. So that's another story about the tire swing. And now a story about my favorite kid, Emmanuel Z. He was a little stinker. He really liked to make fun of me in my American accent and repeat everything I said, even if he didn't know what it meant. So he was acting up, like fighting over a puzzle piece with another kid, and I said, I'm going to tickle you if you don't behave. I'm going to tickle you if you don't behave. And I was like, oh, well, okay. And then I was like, I will, I'll do it. And then the rest of the trip, like every day after that, he would just mock everything I said until it got to the point, because I'm pretty competitive. So it got to the point where I was like, and then he'd be like, and it was just like back and forth for like multiple minutes until, I had to go help some other kid with something else. And I really thought it was cool that I could be that close to a kid there, walk him to the gate where he would then, keep walking to his house, just saying, I'm excited to see you tomorrow. And then he'd be like, me too, I'm really excited to come back tomorrow. That was just really cool for me to be that close to a kid I knew for a week. So it was cool.
One of my favorite memories was there was a girl in my class, I had 2nd grade, and her name was Tonga, and she loved to hang around me, and so she would always just sit by me, and it was so cute. Like whenever we would walk between classes, even if I was carrying my water bottle, she'd come up and just grab my water bottle out of my hand so she could hold my hand. And one day we were walking, and she starts singing to herself really quietly. And as I'm listening, I recognize the song that she's singing. And I ask her to sing it a little louder, so she does, but she's really embarrassed, and she starts laughing. And then I realize that she's singing a Taylor Swift song from 2001. So after that, we became best friends, and she hung around me all the time. And I sang it all the time around her to embarrass her even more. But that was really fun. Another one of my favorite parts was just I think it was really fun for all of us just to be with each other for 2 weeks. We decided one day that it would be hilarious to do the boys' makeup. So even though they're not in the slideshow, there's some really good pictures of the young women who came along with us on this trip. They probably won't tell you, but that is why they were called Miss Kip and Miss Peyton and Miss Jared. So that was really fun.
Sad.
We could probably go on and on with stories, but I'm sure they'll come up when we're all asking questions and eating lunch together. One of my favorite parts was just seeing all of these students connect with all of the Astor School students. It was so fun. Like day 2, they already knew all their names, and we would all share stories and laugh, and that was just really cool to be able to share that with them. The trip was just amazing. It was completely blessed the whole time, and it was such a gift, and everything went smoothly, and it just shows what amazing things happen when you just say yes to what God puts in front of you. But yeah, so just thank you, and we're happy happy that we got to share and that you got to see all the pictures. And that's all we have.
Before you're done, Lindsay, I know you guys do devotions at night every night. Can you just sort of tell us all a little bit what you guys did during devotion time? You know, what went on, how some of the God sightings, whatnot with that?
Yeah, so we would do, there was actually a kind of a curriculum Bible study thing that one of the ladies that used to live there had, and we used that, and every day we talked about different aspects of God. So there was like the character of God, God with us, serving God through loving others, different themes for every day, and then those came with about 5 to 10 verses, and then so we'd go through the Bible with those, and then talk about the discussion reflection questions, and that was cool to just be able to process every day. You know, every night we'd sit down and do like your highs and lows of the day and just kind of process what was happening as we were going. And I think just the biggest thing that I've heard from all of the kids, the God sighting, was just that you saw God everywhere, and they were, I think all of them will say this, that their perspectives were changed on money and things and possessions, and just seeing how much joy these people had in the Lord. That was one of the biggest God sightings that we saw.
So we do have the luncheon afterwards, so you all get an opportunity to ask more questions. So that would be good.
Let's have a prayer blessing. 2 weeks ago, we sent them all out and we prayed for over them, and now let's give a prayer of thanksgiving. Lord, we do give you thanks this morning for what